Your life at every level of ICE. Level 1, the recruit. You're 22 years old with a criminal justice degree, a gym habit, and a vague idea that you want to do something that matters. You find the posting on a federal jobs board. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The pay starts at $48,000 a year, not life-changing money. But there's a badge, a gun, federal benefits, and a retirement package that kicks in at $50,000. You apply. 340,000 other people apply the same year. The surge in applications started the moment the new administration announced it was going to unleash the agency like a dog that's been on a leash for 4 years. The hiring process takes almost a year. Background checks so deep they're talking to your high school gym teacher. Polygraph, psychological evaluation, drug test, fitness test, medical clearance, and then, if you survive all of that, 27 weeks of training in Brunswick, Georgia at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, 12 weeks of criminal investigator basics, 15 weeks of agency-specific training, surveillance, undercover operations, firearms, immigration law, court case development, physical fitness, Spanish. By the time you graduate, you are not the same person who submitted that application. You've been rebuilt. You're handed a badge, a service weapon, and a mobility agreement that says you will go wherever the agency sends you. You don't get to negotiate the location. You get 3 years at your first posting minimum, maybe longer. The agency will tell you when you can move. You nod. You sign. You show up on day 1. The job is nothing like what anyone outside of it imagines. Level 2, the Deportation Officer. Your first posting is an Enforcement and Removal Operations Field Office, ERO, the division of the agency that does exactly what it sounds like. You identify people, you locate them, you arrest them, you remove them from the country. That is the job in 4 verbs. Before the current administration, the daily arrest number across the entire country sat around 300. You know this because the veterans in your office talk about the old pace like soldiers talk about peacetime. Relaxed, measured, targeted. In the first weeks after Inauguration Day, that number jumps. Fast. Quotas start filtering down from Washington. 3,000 arrests a day is the target. The message from the top is not subtle. A meeting is called. Every field office director in the country is pulled into a room in Washington and told to just go out there and arrest people. Your mornings start before sunrise. You pull the target list for the day. Most targets have prior criminal records. Some don't. In the early days of the administration, 50% of the people your team picks up have existing removal orders, meaning they've already been through the legal process and been told to leave. As the months go on and the pressure from above intensifies, that number drops. By summer, only 1 in 4 people your team arrests has a removal to order. You are catching people in Home Depot parking lots, at car washes, at food carts, a woman selling tamales outside a laundromat, a man waiting outside a church. You file the paperwork, you load the transport vehicle, you drive to the processing center. You try not to think too hard about the faces, because if you think too hard about the faces, you cannot do the job. And the job is what you signed up for. You make $62,000 a year plus 25% overtime availability pay. You are also entitled to up to $50,000 in signing bonuses depending on your posting. You are eating fast food in a government vehicle at 11 at night more days than not. You are on call on weekends. You are sleeping with your phone on loud. This is level 2. Level 3, the HSY Special Agent. 2 years in, you apply to transfer to Homeland Security Investigations. HSI is the other half of the agency, the half that doesn't do street arrests, the half that does the long game. HSI has over 7,000 special agents assigned to 250 domestic offices and 50 countries internationally. It is one of the largest criminal investigative agencies in the world, and most people have never heard of it. HSI investigates human trafficking, drug smuggling, weapons, financial crimes, cyber crimes, child exploitation, terrorism financing, identity fraud, commercial fraud, export violations. If there's a national border involved and something illegal crossing it, HSI is either already working it or has jurisdiction to start. The work is slower than ERO. Weeks and months of surveillance, wiretaps, undercover operations, building a case brick by brick that will actually survive a courtroom. You spend 3 months on a human trafficking operation, a network moving people across the southern border and then into forced labor and agricultural operations across 3 states. The victims are not criminals. The people who recruited them, transported them, and are holding their documents and threatening their families absolutely are. When the operation breaks and the arrests come, and the people in those farm worker barracks are finally told they can leave, one of them shakes your hand, doesn't speak a word of English, doesn't need to. You drive home that night and sleep better than you have in 2 years. HS. I is the job you thought you were signing up for when you were 22, level 4. The intelligence officer. You pivot sideways into the intelligence division. You are not kicking in doors anymore. You are sitting in front of screens, analyzing data, connecting names to networks, to financial flows, to locations. The intelligence division is the brain that tells the rest of the agency where to look and what they're going to find when they get there. Your tools are classified. Your targets are not street level. You are tracking cartel logistics, dark web trafficking networks, shell company structures used to launder money across the border. You are building profiles on individuals who have never touched a border in their lives, but are financing the systems that traffic people across them. The work takes patience that most people in law enforcement never develop because most of law enforcement is reactive. Someone commits a crime, you respond. Intelligence is the opposite. You identify the infrastructure before the crime, you watch it breathe, you map it, and then, when the time is right, you hand off a package to an HSI strike team that is so complete, so airtight, that the prosecution rate is near 100%. You make 6 figures now. You work in a building with no signage. Your family knows you work for the government. They do not know what you do exactly. That is by design. That is also fine. You have learned to live with the weight of what you know. Most people in this building have. Level 5, the Technical Enforcement Officer. The TEOs are the ones nobody talks about. Not publicly. They are the people who go in before the agents go in. Covert entry onto the property of criminal targets, installing surveillance equipment, audio, video, tracking, radio frequency monitoring. They execute court-ordered wire operations so technical and so sensitive that the entire rest of the operation depends on the quality of what they put in place. In the dark, alone in someone's building, on a night when anyone catching them there would end careers and potentially end lives. You train for months on every category of surveillance technology in existence. You know the failure points of every system. You know how to defeat them and how to deploy them. You serve on high-risk special operations teams that go into environments where armed criminals operate. You are not the one making the arrests. You are the reason the arrests are possible. The invisible infrastructure of 100 operations, none of which will ever carry your name. The work is exact. There is no room for approximation. A device installed wrong doesn't just fail to collect evidence, it potentially alerts the target, and an alerted target can disappear, destroy evidence, or worse. You check everything 3 times, then you check it again. Then you leave and you wait and you watch the data come in and you feel something that is the quietest form of satisfaction law enforcement has to offer. No sirens, no cuffs, just the cursor blinking on a screen full of evidence that will put someone away for a very long time. Level 6. The Supervisory Agent. You are running a team now, 8 agents. Their outcomes are your outcomes. Their mistakes are your mistakes. The transition from agent to supervisor is the transition that breaks a lot of people because the skills are completely different. Being good at the job and being good at managing people who do the job are not the same skill set. A lot of exceptional agents become mediocre supervisors. A smaller number make the adjustment and become the kind of leader that agents fight to work under. You are in the middle of the busiest period in the agency's history. The administration is pushing numbers. Arrests, removals, flights. In September of 2025 alone, the monitoring systems tracking deportation aircraft record 1,464 immigration enforcement flights, the highest monthly total ever recorded. 49 flights a day, and behind each one of those flights is a chain of human decisions, paperwork, legal checks, processing, transportation logistics, and the specific gravity of putting a person on a government aircraft and sending them to a country they may not have seen in decades. You manage the pressure from above, and you try to maintain the professional standards of your team below. Those two things are in constant tension. The pressure from the White House wants numbers. Your training wants accuracy, legality, due process. When a field supervisor in New Jersey is told that 34% of his arrests are people with only pending charges and no convictions, and the most common charge is a traffic offense, something in the system is not working the way it was designed to work. You file the report, you note the discrepancy, you keep your team clean, you do not always control what happens further up the chain. Level 7, the field office director. You run a field office now. Yours covers 4 states, 400 agents. Every arrest in your territory is your territory. You are the one in the room when Washington calls. You are the one whose name is on the operational reports. You are the one who sat in that meeting when a White House deputy chief of staff stood in front of every field office director in the country and said the words that everyone in that room understood perfectly. The goal was 1 million deportations in the first year of the administration. You are behind. You need to move faster. Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis goes badly. What was supposed to be a high-profile enforcement operation becomes a national news event for all the wrong reasons. Confrontations, legal challenges, resignations. The Secretary of Homeland Security resigns. You watch from your office and you understand what the lesson is. The lesson is that scale without precision creates political liability. The new secretary comes in with a different philosophy. The quiet way. Increase the pressure. Make the environment hostile enough that people choose to leave rather than wait to be removed. Fewer cameras. Fewer confrontations. Slower. Quieter. More permanent. You adapt. You always adapt. That is what this level requires above everything else. The ability to absorb a new directive and reconfigure your operation around it before the next one comes down. You are a machine, and the machine is always running. Level 8, the Deputy Director Washington, the real Washington, not a field office in a suburban business park, the main building, the briefings that include cabinet-level officials, the policy conversations that turn into operational orders that turn into the experiences of the agent eating fast food in a government vehicle at 11 at night, 3 levels below you. At this level, the job is no longer about individual cases. It is about the architecture of enforcement. Budget allocations, interagency coordination, congressional testimony. The Department of Homeland Security's budget for border enforcement, detention, and deportations hits $170 billion in the 2026 federal budget bill. That number is not abstract at this desk. That number is operational capacity. New detention facilities, more flights, more agents, more technology. The machinery of the largest immigration enforcement operation in American history, and you are sitting at the controls. The moral weight of the job is something nobody prepares you for at this level, not because it wasn't always there, but because at field level you could hold it at a distance. A case is a case, a file is a file. Up here, a policy decision is 200,000 people. A shift in enforcement priority is an entire demographic living in a different kind of fear across 47 states. You signed up to enforce the law. The law is clear. The politics around the law are not clear. They have never been clear. And you have been in this agency long enough to have served under administrations that pointed the same instrument in completely different directions. You drink your coffee. You read the morning brief. You go to work. Level 9, the director door. Yeah, you run the whole thing. 20,000 employees, 400 offices, operations in over 40 countries, the largest immigration enforcement agency on the planet. Every decision that gets made in every field office in every city traces back to the framework you set, the priorities you communicate, and the culture you model from the top. The phone call from the White House is a regular occurrence. The targets are political. The timelines are aggressive. The scrutiny from courts, from advocacy groups, from international human rights organizations, from the press, from half the country is relentless. Federal judges are blocking operations. Protest movements are forming specifically around your agency's name. Your agents are being filmed in the field by civilians exercising their legal right to document. The footage goes viral. Sometimes it shows your agents doing exactly what they are trained to do. Sometimes it shows something harder to defend. You have more power than anyone in civilian law enforcement in the United States. You also have less control than you'd like over the environment in which you are being asked to operate. The administration wants the numbers. The courts want compliance. The public wants clarity on who exactly is being targeted and why. Your agents want to go home safe. The people in the detention facilities want to go home full stop. You sit between all of those competing demands and you make calls. Every day. Calls that will be studied, critiqued, litigated, and argued about for decades. Calls that will shape the lives of hundreds of thousands of people who never voted for anyone in this building and have no say whatsoever in what happens next. You have a corner office on the 4th floor of a building in Washington, D.C. On a clear day, you can see the Capitol from the window. You try not to read too much into that. You put on your jacket, straighten your badge, and you go back to work. Because the machine doesn't stop. It never stops. And right now, you are the machine.